Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And joining me on the show this time, for the first time, is Jessie Harriott, Executive Director over at Workhuman IQ. Jessie's role focuses on expanding the research efforts of Workhuman IQ and building out Workhuman's data science capabilities. An esteemed research and analytics professional with more than 20 years of experience, Jessie has advised many private and public organizations on analytics and labor market issues, including the White House, the Federal Reserve, and the US Department of Labor. Jessie, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Beyond my wee introduction just now, why don't you take a minute or two and add anything that I've missed out?
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. My name's Jessie, and I lead data science and AI for Workhuman. And Workhuman, as some of you may know, is a social recognition company. So we provide software that enables employees to thank and recognize one another for high performance that's happening inside of the workplace. And my team really sits at the intersection of technology, culture, and human behavior. And so we're focused on helping organizations leverage that recognition data in smarter, more meaningful ways. And as you mentioned, I've spent my career working in analytics and AI, but what really excites me and my team is really applying those techniques to the human side of work and helping leaders and people inside of corporate America clearly build more connective cultures and then really drive performance through the recognition and belonging. So it's a fun job.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we are recording this episode in mid-April. Workhuman has its amazing US conference coming up next month, the middle of May. I'm pretty upset because I can't make it. Your team kindly invited me to come and cover the event on behalf of the HR Chat Pod and the HR Gazette, but I am already committed to a couple of other events. My amazing new colleague, Jackie Clayton, will be there. Do you want to just take a minute or two and tell our listeners a bit about the conference and for those who are thinking about maybe attending, why they should come along?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Workhuman Live is a unique event, right? It's not a typical vendor conference. There's no exhibition floor. It's really an opportunity for people to come together, all grounded in the mission of driving culture for their organization, right? And the importance of culture, and then how that drives business outcomes. And so it's people coming together to take a moment of reflection, to hear from industry leaders, across the globe on how others are doing that, how they're building a case of return on investment for those initiatives. What are some of the best practices that they're practicing, and then how they can apply that to their own organization. So it's really a timeout moment that really lets people step back and say, why is culture important and how do we drive that? And obviously this year, there will be a lot of focus on human intelligence, the launch that we just announced, which is how to leverage that human-centered data combined with artificial intelligence and what that can tell you about your organization.
Yeah, well, on that note, Jessie, let's talk a bit more about Workhuman's Human Intelligence 2025 release. What does it mean for the HR industry?
Well, in the current environment, all organizations we know are being asked to do more with less, right? And so there's pressure to kind of use all of the resources that we have available. And human intelligence is really about taking that recognition data that companies already have, right? And by recognition data, who is recognizing whom? What are some of the things that they're seeing in others' performance? And the human intelligence release is about how to find that information, scale it, and make sure that it's uncovering insights, in the skills and the human performance area. And the launch represents a turning point for for HR and kind of the HR analytics space, where traditionally HR technologies focus more on operational efficiency. Do we have the right headcount? Can we measure turnover, compensation data, things like that? Critically important things. But human intelligence is about kind of unlocking the data that's been there all along, that recognition data, those human moments of connection. So there's a lot of natural language processing to pull all of that into insights and turn it into intelligence to help you understand, how people are connecting from, in the workplace. How is work really getting done? We all know we have the org structure, but this is sort of the culture graph, right, of how people are collaborating with one another. Who are the critical people in the organization, and what's the important work that they're getting done?
So you're a bit of an AI expert, Jesse. How's AI helped to allow you guys to reach those new data points, to find data that perhaps wasn't available a few years ago to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many AI techniques out there, and they're being scaled and made available to everybody. But the reality is, if it's sitting on top of bad data, it's not going to be that useful, and it can give you kind of misguided insights. And what we're starting with is sort of that human data. So a person saying to another person, I see you did an excellent job in that client meeting the other day. Without your contributions, we wouldn't have gotten to where we needed to be. Those level of details. And then we're taking the AI technology and putting it on top of that data to uncover things like skills, right? So somebody may mention things like leadership or negotiation skills, or even technical skills get mentioned in recognition moments all the time. So pulling apart that unstructured information to then put some structure around it to create essentially a knowledge graph of all of the work getting done and happening inside of the company, and then being able to tie that to connection. And so it's really turning the feelings into facts, if you will. So turning those soft moments of human authentic connection into insights, around how people are showing up at work and what they're being recognized for.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Goodwin, president at Career Club. Imagine with me for a minute a workplace where leaders and employees are energized, engaged, and operating at their very best. At Career Club, we work with both individuals and organizations to help combat stress and burnout that lead to attrition, disengagement, and higher healthcare costs. We can help your organization and your workforce thrive, boosting both productivity and morale across the board. To learn more about how we might help you and your company, visit us at career.club.
Okay, so you're collecting all of this wonderful data. It's giving the senior management a better idea of what their people are doing and how they're doing it and who's achieving what. What does that mean to the bottom line, Jesse? What does that mean to a company that's looking to, for example, build up leaders for tomorrow based on the data that they're collecting about their employees at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you think about succession planning, or you think about leadership development, and all companies, right, we're always on the lookout for who are those next generation leaders. And this kind of recognition data is a real, and human intelligence is a real unique complement to that. So many times we're relying on 360s, we're relying on maybe closed door sessions among a leadership team, we're relying on who's seen the most in meetings. But the reality is there are lots of different types of contributions and ways that people show up to add value. And that human intelligence can help you create a bench strength of hidden gems and hidden leaders that might not be as obviously visible, and do it in a way that's instantaneous, using AI on top of this data. And then help you create, candidates for promotion, candidates for development. Also create self-awareness among those leaders of how are they showing up? How are they seen? What's their reputation inside the organization? So doing this at scale is a great complement to a traditional performance review process. And we see clients using it that way all the time.
Okay, so it's a great tool for succession planning. It's a great tool for leadership development. I'm assuming also that HR leaders can use human intelligence to improve talent retention generally, and of course reduce turnover throughout the workforce, whether or not that workforce are end up going to be leaders or not. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly we know that when people receive recognition, they're much more likely to stay. They're much more likely to say, I feel included or I belong. They're much more likely to uh, perf- increase their performance level or kind of increase that discretionary effort, right, in their job function. So you can use that human intelligence data to find the bright and dark spots of where that's happening and where it's not. So we have clients, for example, that will combine their performance ratings with the recognition data to see, well, making sure all of those high performers are being recognized. And maybe there's some gaps there that we need to close or make sure that, we're creating stay plans with some of those high performers as well. And so using it for retention, the multiple ways that clients are using that human intelligence for retention.
And let's be real. I guess the flip side of this as well is that the data that's offered by a tool such as or by reports by Human Intelligence 2025 release and others, it can also provide the materials for an HR team if they're unsure about whether or not a particular employee is achieving within their role. And if they're not, I guess that gives them an opportunity to have that conversation to help them develop. But also, if it then doesn't work out, to part ways and to switch focus. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, the human intelligence data really is used to amplify the positive. We would never advocate for kind of relying on recognition data to make, separation decisions. This is about how people are showing up and representing their strengths at work. And so it can be a great tool for helping people understand, well, if there are areas of performance expectation that aren't showing up in recognition, there's a conversation to be had about why that might be the case. But it also helps identify those real star performers and people who are really providing outside contributions beyond maybe even what's expected in their role. So having those developmental conversations that help you understand, how you're showing up, that's the way that the human intelligence data is most powerful.
And in terms of your company's culture, the company culture at Workhuman, do you guys live what you espouse? Talk to us a bit about the company culture there, how it analyzes its existing employees, how it tries to encourage them to make new connections, try new things based on their skill sets. Talk to us a bit about your company culture and how you try to live that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, many companies, when they set a recognition program, right, they have a budget. They might pick 1% of their payroll and say, okay, we're going to allocate this to social recognition. We've seen and we're studying the science of that. So we know it works. And so we don't even cap our budget. We have basically an organic approach to when employees see something good happening, they're able to make that recognition moment. And that creates a culture that's very dynamic. It's very supportive. It's very business and outcome focused. And so, you'll see some employees receiving, 5, 10 recognition moments per month. And we encourage that. That's okay. Because we know they're authentic. We know it's deepening the human connection at work, and we know it's driving business performance. So we're kind of a laboratory in action for that, which is cool. And so a lot of people find that invigorating, working in that kind of environment. And the reality is the data on top of that really helps you understand as an employee, what does good look like in your team? What does good look like for you? Are you charting a career that's going to be where is going to take you where you want to go, or, shining a mirror up to that to say, okay, maybe I need to lean in this way differently or show up differently that way. And so creating that live, exciting, dynamic, positive culture is what Workhuman is all about.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. We are already coming towards the end of this particular conversation. So I'll just have to get you on again pretty soon, Jesse. Just 2 more questions for you before we wrap up for today, though. I guess the next question is what else? And what I mean by that is, how does the Human Intelligence 2025 release align with broader trends in the workplace culture and employee experience, and anything else that maybe we've missed about the release so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, we're entering an era where employee performance and culture inside of an organization, they've often been separate conversations, but the reality is they're blending, right? And they're becoming one conversation. So you can't extract culture from employee performance, employee experience. And so human intelligence as a kind of an additional lens onto what culture looks like for your organization, for your team, combined with how that data can be used to chart your own path and understand what your skills are inside an organization. That's certainly in line with a lot of those broader trends. And we know every company's saying they want to transform into a skills-based culture, but the reality is a lot of the skills measurement is sort of somebody raising their hand and saying, I have this skill, and or somebody giving them that label. But with that recognition data, with the human intelligence, it's performance in action. So it's creating a skills map, your personal skills profile, using your actual work happening in real time. So it's a unique complement and fits well into a lot of those broader trends that we're seeing.
Rock and roll. Thank you very much. And just finally for today, how can our listeners connect with you? By the way, I've just sent you a LinkedIn connection request myself. And of course, how can they learn more about the Human Intelligence 2025 release?
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. And thanks for that. Anybody can go to Workhuman and see all of the information about the Human Intelligence release. There's a short video on that with a few industry guest folks that you'll recognize and learn more about human intelligence. And I certainly would love to connect with any of our listeners on LinkedIn at any point. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jesse. And listeners, just as a reminder, if you have not got your tickets yet to Workhuman Live, be there or be a rectangle. It's looking like an amazing event. I'm very jealous. If you are going, please try to connect with my colleague, Jackie Clayton, who will be on the floor, wandering around, trying to do interviews and such. But for today, Jesse, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you, Bill. Had a great time.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.